Okay, guys, welcome to today's lecture. Thanks to those that are here so far, and please message your team if they don't have the link. You can send them the link now so that they turn up. Now, thanks also for adjusting to this time. We've got Bettina going to give us a lecture today, who a number of you have already had some mentoring from and some contact with through eBridge and some of our other workshops. If you haven't met Bettina before, though, I'm pretty sure most of us would have by this stage, but she's an amazing innovation, entrepreneurship, and startup coach and expert operating out of Munich, and has some amazing insights into the processes that you're all undertaking in this subject. So she's going to be giving us a great overview of the business model canvas and value proposition canvas today. So we've had two workshops so far that have covered this content in brief. We gave a really short introduction to it and started to make some progress on it. But as I was saying to those in the workshops from earlier in the week, today is where you can get a really good, solid introduction to the content and have a lot of your questions answered. So after today, the expectation is that you will leave this lecture and you will go back to your teams and start planning to complete your value proposition canvas and your business model canvas and grow them from here. So for the rest of semester, these tools that you're going to see today will be the repository for all of the work that you're doing related to your projects. Okay, so it's a really good lecture to be at today. Pay attention, take notes. If you have questions, please type them in the chat or write them down and save them to ask afterwards. I think that's all I can say. Bettina, I'll leave it in your hands.
So as you can see, the weather is a little bit different in here. In Germany, we have a hot summer, and I'm definitely going to a swim this evening. And I'm really sorry to hear that it's cold, but I heard from Daniel it's getting spring in Melbourne, so I hope you get a warm, nice weather quite soon. So as Daniel said, it's about value proposition and business modeling today, and thanks very much for the promo. I'm very flattered. So let us see the slides. Do you see them all?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, good. So today it's about these two topics, and it's really about getting a first understanding what everything is all about, and that you are able to apply it, value proposition design and business model design, in a customer-centric way. This is very important to myself because I was leading the human-centered design activities at Siemens Design Thinking, and I worked with so many engineers and in all the different business units, and yes, of course they claim to be customer-centric because of course they know when they are not providing something that is of a value of customer, they would not make money, but their understanding was not like that. Often they didn't had any access to customers. So first I would like to ask you, so why do you think this is important? So you have probably, as Daniel said already, a first understanding of the terms value proposition design and business modeling, but why should you care? Why do you think it's useful or necessary to think about it? And it would be my question to you, and to use the chat and write what you think. So I would really ask you that all of you, so I'm looking forward for receiving 20 messages because we can save them, and I can have a look into it also later on. So really also think for you when you start something that you really have a question. So why I'm doing that? Why is this relevant? Because there's one thing that is very precious for a startup and an entrepreneur, and of course we always think it's money, but actually it's time. It's time. You have very limited time, and you have to think how to use your time wisely. And as Daniel said, so we as your lecturer, teachers, coaches, we believe and know that thinking about a very strong value proposition and building the architecture of a startup is crucial, and this is why we're doing it. And I will read them, so I do not ignore them. I just can't go on because we have a lot of stuff to tackle today. So when it comes to the business model, this is the double diamond by the Design Council. So it's a kind of a mindset and philosophy I'm embracing. And what I experienced that in large companies, not just like Siemens, where I worked in 8 years, in large technology companies, people have an idea, which is not bad. It's good, actually. They are brilliant minds, brilliant engineers, very, very talented. So they have an idea, and they're amazed by their own genius, ingenuity, and it's probably also from a technical point of view brilliant. But when it doesn't fit to a problem, yeah, so the company has a problem. This is why the first thing before we are starting value proposition design or business modeling is really thinking about what are we going to address. And we're looking first for real and relevant problem, because as more urgent the problem is and the more painful the problem is for someone, the more likeliness is there's a willingness to address this problem with a solution, and there could be a willingness to pay. So I know that there are some solutions out there that do not address a real problem. Don't be mad, maybe TikTok, but they can lead to a brilliant business. But believe me, it's often quite unlikely that you have this home run. These are always exceptions. Because we are teaching entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial skills and behavior, and we have to find ways to raise the likeliness that you are going to succeed. And when you're starting with a real and relevant problem, the likeliness is so much higher. Makes probably sense. And then, of course, you have to find a kind of mix and match, not mix and match, a match to the problem, and delivering also here real and relevant value. Sounds trivial, is not trivial. And that's here we're coming in. So what is a business model? So it's a statement how a firm makes money and sustain its profit stream over time. So there are a couple of scientific definitions what a business model is. In short, for me, it's the architecture, like a building plan for your venture, for your startup, for your solution. Because in a corporate, let's say Mercedes, probably they have plenty of business models, sometimes for one line. And so there could be a variety of business models a company has to orchestrate. But in theory, it's an architecture, it's a model, meaning it doesn't include everything. It has a clear structure in order to be handled in the conversation and to address the most urgent topics, the most urgent things we have to address in order to build up a new venture. So the next question, when it comes to a business model, from your perspective, what is the most critical factor in order to succeed? So you all have an idea, you're working with Daniel and Eddie on your venture, and this is exciting. What do you think is the most important thing you have to address in order to be successful? And also here, please use the chat and briefly think about it and write. Oops, zurück, back. So what is the most critical thing in order to be successful? Continued effort, okay. Make sure that actually a market available for your product, something value of someone, understand your product, being devoted, understand what the end customer actually wants, having passion, understand the market you are targeting. So you do not have the excuse that's very early, because it's early on my side of the planet, but maybe it's a little late on your side. So please give your best. And I know that a couple of answers are still missing. So a market and providing a product. Okay. The others also, please think a little bit about, because you have to answer that too in the upcoming weeks. So I will read through it. It will not be wasted, even if you do not see it anymore. Because I haven't founded a successful startup by myself yet, I just helped my co-workers to work on their project, which was very, very fulfilling for me. And I really liked that, to work on different projects and to help others grow. This is why I became a professor. I thought I will ask a successful entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur, what, from his perspective, the most critical elements are. And before we were starting that, I was looking in a more popular way, what, not popular, but what the journals are saying and publication are saying. And I have one scholar from Harvard Business, and he said 75% are failing. And according to Forbes, it's 90%. So one of each 10 startups are failing. And according to Statista, which is a kind of a service in Germany for statistical records, they're saying they are mostly failing because there is no need in the market. Someone of you mentioned it. Some of them are just running out of cash, which could become a problem when you cannot afford your startup anymore. Not the right team. Someone of you mentioned passion and being devoted. It's also important. And I have to say, this is one of the critique what I have had in Osterwalde. He had this kind of strategy and framework for value proposition design and business model, but it didn't address the team and the entrepreneurs. So having the right people and the right attitude is definitely crucial, no question. But with these kind of programs we are building up with eBridge, La Trobe, and all the other universities, we are looking for the like-minded people who are really driving their own ideas forward and would like to make a difference in the world. So as I said, I asked an entrepreneur what his answer is, and let's listen to him. So this is Alexander Grotz, and he will introduce himself.
Hello, my name is Alexander Grotz. I'm one of the co-founders of ProGlove. We are offering an intelligent glove for industrial application and for industry and logistics. When you ask me about the three factors that make a tech startup successful, well, first of all, it has to be a superior, unique technology. And but even if you don't have that, or if you're going in that direction at least, I think the three factors that I like to talk about are, the first one is that you have to have a very, very clear understanding about your customer. And in the business-to-business field, which very often is the case for technology startups, you actually have to differentiate between the user of your product and the decider for your product. And you have to understand and find ways to actually attract both of them towards your product. The second, I would say, is that you have to ideally leverage an existing technology or an existing behavior, something that is already in your customer's system that you can use in order to put your technology on top, in order to bring down the hurdles of implementation. And thirdly, I would say you have to have a specific marketing strategy, like how you enter the market and how you win your main customers. And I think that is collaboration. So you move away, or you don't start with a pure supplier buyer relationship, but you try to start your business on a project basis where you collaborate intensively with your customers at the beginning and then build your product business on top of that. I think these are the three things that I would recommend.
So you heard Alexander. He is not just the founder of ProGlove. He launched a company in London many, many years ago, I think more than 20 years ago, in the field of audio recording, I guess. And IDEO became aware of that, the design and innovation company, consulting company, and bought his company, made him to the CEO of IDEO in Munich. And afterwards, he launched another agency, and afterwards, he launched ProGlove. And here comes the interesting thing, with students. With students of him, he was a teacher at SCE, the institute where I am, and the team started in a very different area. So they worked on a mobility solution, but one guy came up and said, actually, I observed something in my internship at BMW. He was working in the production line, that every worker had a glove on, and they had to switch between the car and some devices they had to deal with. And he saw that they lost time in switching between their actually job and getting the device. And so they built on this idea, not on the idea, on the observation, there is actually a problem. And this problem could always lead to a business opportunity. And the trouble with some engineering-minded people, when you would be an entrepreneur and work in a company, often a company represents a certain area, a portfolio of technology. And they say, so now we have a portfolio, this is our technology, this is our unique advantage, we have IP and everything on it, build a business model on it. And this is so troubling because the technology is a way to solve something. So we have to understand first what is the problem, and then we have to find the best fit solution, best fit technology in order to address this problem. And we have to go the other way around, from the problem to technology, and not from the technology to the problem. And have to figure out what the best fit is. And you as engineers, you are really in a prestigious position, because what I see in teaching business school students is that they thinking about business modeling, but they do not have any technology advantage. And because of that, often their business models are easy to copy. And so, but coming back, what is important, because there's tons of things to be said. So a clear understanding of your customer. You would have different segments. Is it when you are in B2B? Because some of the ideas I heard are into B2B. So who are the customer? What kind of segments do you have? Is this a decision maker who said, yes, we're buying it, we're ordering it? Or is this someone who's influencing the decision? So for example, when it comes to my former company, Siemens, the decision maker are the purchase department. They say, yeah, this is what we are going to buy. And they are kind of arranging the ordering process. But the influencer are the people on the ground who are kind of leading and managing the operations. So we have to tackle both. And for example, if you are in B2C and your customers, and you think your customers are kids, you have a product for kids, the decision maker are actually the parents. I think you get it. So, and of course, we would like to push you to use technology. There are exciting technologies currently on the market, and it's getting more and more excited because technology is becoming so cheap. So that you leverage existing technology to really address this and to figure out, to bring down hurdles of implementation, because we have an exciting idea, but to make it happen and to really scale it, to produce it in the mass market and to have a big growth is not that easy. And of course, having a marketing strategy to enter the market from the main customer. These are answers I haven't actually expected from Alexander Grotz, because he's also kind of a guru in design thinking. And this is our kind of religion. What I mean by that is that we are always looking from a customer perspective, meaning first and foremost, who is our customer, or who are the people we have to address, and creating a really clear understanding. What are they looking for? What is the pain and what is the value they are looking for? And the business viability. Are we able to make money? Are we able to enter the market, to address them, to get to them? And this is a really critical one, because if you are not addressing a market, there's no return on invest. Sometimes there is a huge pain and a really great interest, but you're not able to address the market. We had this case sometime in China, in an energy distribution project, because all the there is a bidding process. You have to apply to become part of the bidding, And the kind of bidding requirements has been written that multinational companies like Siemens are not allowed to be a part of the bidding. We're just allowed when we are kind of collaborating with a Chinese company. So you have to understand, are you able to address the market? Where is the best Australia, or is it maybe Asia? So is it China, or would be the best entry market US? And then comes the technology, so that you're not reinventing the wheel. I'm pretty sure many of you are also not just engineers, you're inventors and you like to build stuff, but you should figure out the best possible way to use what is existing, because time is crucial. So look what is already there and build on it, that you really are able to scale up. So leverage existing technology and to provide a solution to the problem. This is a very important person. If you do not know him, you have to get to know him. Unfortunately, he passed away, I think, in the beginning of this year. This is Clayton Christensen. He was a Harvard professor, and he created, or not just, he wrote famous book like Innovator's Dilemma, and he created the term disruptive, so not created, he explained it and found amazing definition. But he's also famous for the term job to be done, because the problem is sometimes too fuzzy when we would like to address something very specific. And he created this term, we have to address the job to be done on the customer side. There is a wonderful video in the slide deck, you have access to the video, about the milkshake. What is actually the job to be done of a milkshake at McDonald's or Wendy's? And he figured out it's not that easy that you get nurtured or would like to have a drink. Some of the customer, especially in the US, when they are commuting so many hours, the job to be done is overcoming boring, because they're sitting there getting nurtured in a certain time period, not too much because they would like to have lunch later on and not to be full when they would have eaten a muesli. So there are certain specific jobs to be done to address. These are real problems and needs that are really specific. This is why we are often in favor of this kind of job to be done concept. Sometimes the jobs are very functional, and sometimes the jobs can also be social or emotional. Also in B2B, we recognize that some people in companies like to get promoted. That's just natural, and this is a real job that needs to be addressed. So, and what is also important, that on one hand there is a job to be done that is always the same, and you heard leverage existing technology and figure out what are the kind of context requirements to the needs, and you will understand that the needs and the way we are able to address these needs can change over time. And there's a wonderful example with the need to listen to music or to enjoy music, and the need was always there. Also, our ancestors, they had a need for music. They sang or used very simple tools to make sounds and noise and rhythm and dance and enjoy the company. So the need for music was always there. But there was a certain time when there was a need to listen to music at home when you would like to listen to without being able to play the piano or any instrument or to sing. So on the spot in a very sophisticated way. And later on, to listen to music on the go, or to listen to music to the specific song you would listen to quickly, because when you have a tape, you have to forward or rewind, and it was a hassle, and the lifetime on my cassettes was not really long. Or to have an entire music library on one device, and now to access the whole world's music library anytime and for just a limited amount of money. So you see that the concept of what is the job, what are the needs, and how to address the needs is changing over time. And just one quick side note, current studies said the most crucial factor in a business model or in the startup to survive is adaptability. So what you said is not wrong. What I said is not wrong. It means how it is interpreted or addressed has to change quickly according to the real-time data. This, you have something in mind, and this is what also Daniel said. You're starting today, you accomplish, you fill everything in, but you have to reflect, is it actually true? And will it be true over time? And this can change. You always have to figure out, especially here right now in the crisis. Many companies had a really wonderful, robust business model, and now lockdown, it doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work with the value chain or the supply chain we have, the global supply chain. When the borders are closed, we have to adjust. And adaptability becoming the most crucial factor. Have that in mind, is really important. So probably you saw the canvas of Osterwalder with these 9 areas. And for me, the business model was a wonderful tool, but it didn't make sense with these evangelist in my company who's just said, we have to take the business model, that's it. Because the thinking was from, I recognize when I worked with business modeling and started with business model, that my people, they had no understanding who actually are the people they are going to address and what their jobs are. And also Osterwalder, he started with the business model canvas, but then he published a book, The Value Proposition Design. And this should be your first step. Start always with the business model design and then go to the business model canvas. This would be my suggestion. So, and it's a tool, and it's a very simple tool, easy to use. This is why we're using it in class, because we are able to communicate on the most critical question and answers in your startup idea. So, and the value proposition design by Osterwalder is divided in 2 areas. On one hand, you have the user profile map, is coming from the right to the left. So usually in Western cultures, we are reading from the left to the right. But here you have to think the other way around, because you are starting with who are the people, what are their pains and gains, needs, and then you develop a solution with its value proposition. This is the value proposition map. So 2 maps, 2 areas, and you start with the right one. And you're starting with the job. So who are the stakeholders and what is the job to be done? Who are the customer groups or the target groups you are addressing? And that you really think also about not just the functional jobs, also could there be social jobs that I would like to be accepted by my peers? So kind of polishing my ego towards the neighbor is a very human attitude. And many Germans, sorry to say that, for them it's really important to brag with their big car. It's important to have the BMW or the Mercedes in front of the house, and it's not just a functional need to have 400 horsepower. So I think you're getting it. And so the tool is really, really good in this, that you are extracting the pains, the jobs, and then you figure out what works and what doesn't work, what is driving the people, the gains, and what are elements that doesn't work are the pains. So let me say something a little bit, coming to that later on again. What I do not like in this value proposition design of Osterwalder is you should have a step in between. You should have here extract your stakeholders. So who are the customers and the different segments you are addressing? And you should write that down. And if there are different groups, use different colors. I show it to you later on. And between the pains and gain, you should have a step here. What are the existing solutions? What are they using right now? Because this would makes it easier to extract what makes them happy. What are the KPIs, but also what makes them unhappy? For example, currently let me briefly think. The entry process in the, so I'm like to travel, the job is to go from A to B, but the check-in process for me right now in the circumstances is a pain in the ass because it takes time, I'm waiting in line. And so you are able to extract what exactly is not working and you are able to build on that. And this is the logic, that you're extracting what works because the people do not want to miss that. And they will judge your new solution based on their existing experience. And when something that is really important here is missing, they would maybe not switch. But when there is a big pain and a very explicit pain because of the current solution doesn't work very well, doesn't provide the satisfaction they are looking for, you can build on that. And this is the idea of the value proposition map, that you are able to extract, okay, when these are the gains, can I build on top of that and make the gains even more exciting? Or the other way around. What I mean is, when these are pains, things that doesn't work because people are waiting, it's too slow, it's too expensive, it's not working very well, whatever, you are able, how might we address that? So what could be pain relievers? And then based on this understanding, how might we add gains, relieve pains, we are able to shape our and design our product and service. And just also a side note, have in mind that relieving pains is usually, as a human, always more important than adding gains. This is based in our DNA, that when we see a snake, to really get out of the way and leave is more stronger than, oh, there's something exciting I have to go towards. It's a tendency. So relieving pain is often more important than looking for additional gains. So this is the user profile map. You're starting with it, and you should have the benchmark in between. So how do they address their current jobs to be done? What are the existing solutions? And this is why benchmarking is so crucial. And that you figure out what are the pains and gains, and then you're going on the other side, how might we add gains and relieve pains, and what would be our solution? So probably all of you know Airbnb. And in Airbnb, you see also the concept that it's a two-sided market. It's a platform, two-sided market platform, because you have two customer groups. On one hand, you have the traveler. These are the main target group you would like to address, but you need the host in order to deliver the offer and to make this kind of business working. And you have to address and satisfy both, and they both have jobs and pains and gains in the current solutions, because booking solutions have always been there. Many people used in San Francisco Craigslist in order to get a place to sleep that is not so horrible expensive in the Bay Area. Or travelers are using Booking or whatever kind of hotel sites to get their accommodation. So there have been solutions in place. And so there are jobs, and as you see, the traveler was in like kind of green, hosts in purple, and extracting the existing jobs. We also looked what is already out there. HRS is a European booking hotel booking website that is used by many companies. So they have a lot of bookings and traffic on their side, and for the private people Craigslist. Then also the gains, the pains. Then, so how might we address this as Airbnb? Add gains, relieve pains, and this is the solution, the Airbnb platform that offers traveler hotel with a local experience and hosts a possibility to rent a place, the whole place, or just a room for the whole period of time or a couple of period of time. So snippets of time. And this is how the platform looked like. And this is the second challenge you should have in mind. This is very theoretical. How it really looks like and how customer react has to be proven by a prototype. So on one hand, this is for us a prototype. It's a conceptual prototype. It's a canvas prototype. We are able to get started and have a conversation first. But when it comes to real reactions, we have to test with visualization of the real prototype, not in a very sophisticated way. This comes later with a low resolution prototype, with mock-ups, with paper mock-ups, with tangible prototypes in a very robust way, sometimes not functional in the beginning, where we are able to test, is there actually value from the perception of the customer. So this is an example of Airbnb, and there are more slides in the slide deck that will be provided by Daniel. So I do not talk to them. I think many of them are self-explanatory. So coming back to the business model, because we want to talk about the business model. Osterwalder, who is the kind of a mastermind, but from my perception, he's more the wonderful, creative, and very, very talented consultant. And Pineur is the kind of scientific researcher behind. They defined a business model as the way a company generates, deliver, and captures value. These are the three things you have in mind: generates, delivers, and capture value. And here comes the mindset again. So that you have at the end a proof of, is it really desirable for the customer? Are we addressing a relevant need? Are we providing a convincing and differentiating value? So convincing, is there really a proof point that the customer sees this value, and that the value is different, better, faster, cheaper towards the competitor? So the differentiator, the unique selling proposition, the unique or the unfair advantage. Do we have, is it an attractive market? Are there willingness of pay to pay? Or when you are working on a social business model, at least are you able to cover your costs? And then proof of concept, because as engineers, we're more likely to start with, can we build it? But the proof of concept that you're really able to build it is often very pricey. First, we have to address, is there actually a need and a value? Would there be a market in order to invest in building? This is something at the end, we have to be in the sweet spot here, but the way should be starting with the customer group, their pains or their needs, and then are we able to deliver value? Would there be a market? Are we able to address the market? Are we able to make money enough? And then are we able to build it? Because I never experienced in my time at Siemens that they, as soon as they knew they would like to build it, they build it. It was never the difficulty not to build it. It was always a question of resources and time, but they built everything. And I have the confidence also in you. And this is the business model canvas. So you have these area, and it's not rocket science. It's actually very easy, but to really extract it and to apply it on your idea will be probably tricky. I believe that, and this is why we're here to help you. And the logic is also there. So it's not wasted that you started with the value proposition design, because you have to think about segments, who are the different stakeholders we address, and you see on the right side, here we are, these are the segments. And we thought about the value proposition map, and here this is the value proposition, it's in the middle. And it's actually quite interesting that the value proposition is in the center of it. And this is something you also have in mind. If there's no value, there is no business. That easy it is, it's common sense. So, and the structure is on the right side, and again, from the right to the left. This is the area, these kind of four areas are the proof of value. These are addressing the aspects of desirability. The three on the left are the pillars or the elements for feasibility and will deliver a proof of concept. And on the bottom, these are the things that address the viability aspect, the market aspects, the money aspects, the profitability. And he is starting in a way that you are going also from the left to the right. You are starting with the customer segments and then the value proposition, like the logic in the value proposition design. Then here, what are the channels, the customer relationship? Then you're going here, which is interesting. So how are you going to make money? Why? Because this also defines what you have to do. When you have a certain business model that is inherent with shops, for example, this would lead to different activities. This is why he is addressing this kind of profit elements first before the activity elements, how to get it done. But let's talk step by step. You see the numbers. There is a certain way you should go through, but you will go back and forth always, and you adjust something in value proposition. Just have in mind when you change something here, it could lead to changes to everything here. So, and this is a work in progress document. So it's really very liquid. Let me phrase it like this. So we're starting with the customer segment as the first thing. So are you addressing a niche market? Are you addressing the mass market? Are you addressing certain customer groups? Is it B2C for like a two-sided platform? So who are the different segments? And in the slide deck, you are also able to figure out two directions. Bottom up, Australia has that many people, these are my segments, or top down, who are my first 10 customers, who are the next 100, because on your personal access to these people, on your personal relationship, you would be able to address that. At the end, we have to figure out who are the different groups, and are we able, are these the right people we would like to address? And then you're going to the value proposition. And sometimes you have a value proposition, you know these are the customer, and you define your value proposition and what is the unique element you are adding, and you figure out actually my value doesn't fit to this customer group. And you, of course, you can change two things. You can change your value proposition, but you can also change your customer group. This is the flexibility you have as an entrepreneur. Sometimes in a company you cannot do that because you have a certain kind of customer segments you have access to, and you have to adjust your value proposition to the existing customer base. That could be the difference between intrapreneurship and entrepreneurship. But you have to have in mind the value proposition has to be real. And often we would like to push the students to quantify the value. When you say my solution is better, in what? Are you cheaper? Can the job be done faster, more delightful, because there are less errors, there are less mistakes, because you have proof points that the person really is excited, meaning the person is recommending your service. So really figure out, this is hard. Can you define proof points of your value, quantify your value? Because this could also lead to a new pricing model called value-based pricing. When my customer saves, let's say 100 euro each month, it's justifiable that I say my service costs $50 a month because you're saving $50. In total, you're saving 100, but you have to pay me. So it would be a win-win. Really think hard, what is the value you're providing? So not just say, this is my solution, also think about what is the value and what is unique, what is the USP and what is the unfair advantage. So why you and why your solution and not anything else. And that's a tough one, believe me. So, and how do you get to your customer? What are the challenges, the paths to offer your service? And and to deliver the value, to deliver your value proposition to your customer. And there are some examples and by the way, I would highly recommend to get the book. It's not so expensive, and there are wonderful examples. And it's not rocket science, but to think through and to apply it needs time and practice. So it's also kind of a craftsmanship. You are starting with that. We're doing it a couple of years already. And believe me, also when we are starting to work on our own ideas, it's tricky, and we need kind of going back and forth and discussing about that and hearing different opinions on it in order to have a good reflection and a critical reflection and to think through. So what is the customer relationship? What kind of service do we offer? And then we're going in the in the viability part of it. So how do we make money with what? And how do we ensure that there is a willingness to pay? What are they willing to pay? And what is the kind of money-making logic? What I mean by that, maybe you heard of the razor blade model. And the razor blade model says, okay, we are Gillette, for example, and our offer is to the best in the man, the beard, is kind of a weird claim. And they have a very advanced technology in their blades. And they are selling the whole razor blade, but also the blades in separate. And their razor blade model is the most money is made with the blade. And there is a lock-in system because the blades just fit to the Gillette ones. And as soon as you have the razor, you have to buy the blades from Gillette. And they are the expensive one. They make the most money with the blades. This is the kind of razor blade model. Or the copy machine Xerox, they developed this wonderful copy machine. They saw the need for copies and fast and cheap copies, but the machine were so expensive. They have not been able to sell any machine. They had to change their business model. Actually, they just changed the money-making logic. They rent the machines and they made the money based on the copy, 1,000 copy XYZ money, and a little renting fee. And the renting fee was so low that the companies said, the office companies, they said, yes, we would like to have a copy machine because the business model made sense from their money-making logic. Then you're going, okay, when this is the value we would like to provide for this customer group, these are our marketing channels and our customer relationship. This is how we would like to make money. Then we know what is in us, what kind of resources do we have to bring on the table to address that. And then you think, but what are the actual activities we are able to do? So just going back, also this is the unfair advantage. Do you have something other would not have in order to provide this? And what are the key activities you have to do? And then you figure out, here's something we have, and there's something we have to do, and elements we have to work with others, services that has to be provided by partners, services that make sense to be provided by partners, and these is this area. For me, sometimes it makes more sense, and this is why I'm going back, to extract the activities first and then to figure out what are the activities we are able to provide uniquely or most perfectly, and others that makes just sense or needs to be addressed by others or needs to be fulfilled by others. So at the end, you have to fill out both. So you have to think about all the three areas and just go back and forth. And sometimes, we have this partner and how might we work with them? It's also fine. And last but not least, so when we addressing everything, what are the costs? How many people do we have? How much money do we have to make? Do we have to have servers? Do we have to produce software? Is there a production line? Is there some kind of service partner for distribution? When we have a marketing campaign, how much is it? So I think this is often very underestimated, especially when I see my business students. They say, okay, we're doing an app and we're providing some Facebook ads, and we're doing Instagram. Okay, how many people are you able to address? How many friends do you have on Facebook? How many followers do you have on Instagram? And how many customers or expected customers are you able to address, and how many would really get your service? There are millions of apps out there, and sometimes it's really, really crucial to get visibility first. And this makes money, takes money. It takes a lot of effort to become visible, to be seen by a possible customer group, and to have this AIDA, attention, interest, desire, and action, that they're saying, oh wait, that's actually quite nice, I'm going to try it. Oh, this is really cool, provides value, I'm going to buy it and to pay for it. So and also here, get expert feedback, to iterate, and have in mind adaptability is the most crucial factor to work on that. Because on one hand, you have a kind of a reality shock that's normal. And this is why I would like to address the two crucial thing to our students of you mentioned, being passionate and being devoted. It is really important you are in the driver's seat. And if you are not satisfied, and if you're not convinced, and you are saying, this is crazy shit and the world needs that, and you know it, and you feel it's true, and you have proof point, don't give up. It's a part of the game that you have to iterate. So this is the overview. And here again, because we started with Airbnb, we should finish with Airbnb. And under this website, innovationtactics.com, there are tons of business model examples. Learn from them. There's a build on others with pride, or steal with pride. You would be stupid not to look what others are doing, learn from them, avoid their mistakes, and take what seems to be promising. So really steal with pride. Of course, you're not, you should not violate IP. That can become really, really ugly. But when it comes to these approaches, what kind of customer groups are they addressing? How do they access them? You can learn a lot from them. And also look, even if you are in a kind of B2B setting, you can learn a lot from B2C. Many companies like Airbnb, ABB, and GE, they're looking what Apple is doing. Even if Apple is not in their kind of competitor landscape at all, because they have such a convincing way to address customer needs and provide exciting value from the perspective of the customer. And this is the other thing. You have to put yourself in the shoes of your customer. You have to see your business from the perspective of the others. There's this also a saying, the worm has to taste the fish and not the fisherman. So you are the fisherman, and don't get me wrong that your business model is the worm, so probably it's much more delicious and attractive like that, but we would like to fish. So we have to figure out that our fish, our worm is tasteful for the fish and not for us, not just for us. So here's some literature for value proposition design by Osterwalder. I really like the book, not also because it's very colorful, but it's very easy to understand. The business model generation. So these two books, I would also, this is not in the canvas here because we just want to talk about value proposition design and business modeling. But remember, we have to have proof points, proof of value, proof of profitability, and proof of concept that it really works. And the third book that is not here because testing should become a single session. Also Osterwald has a whole book on testing. So I would highly suggest that you buy the 3, have it, go with a pen, make your marks, And he is explaining the tools on his company website, Strategizer. You will find all the canvases for download, a lot of examples and talks and recommendations, and use what already is there. And also there's Daniel and Eddie, two wonderful teachers, tutors, supporters, coaches that helps you to apply it. Of course, this is a book that is probably very unknown in your field because Oliver Gassmann is a Swiss researcher. He's a former colleague of mine from my alma mater, and he has a book on patterns. There are business model patterns like the razor blade model, and he extracted 55 models. And of course, the Lean Startup, it's a horrible book from my perspective. It's more important to understand it's really about build, measure, learn, that you get in this kind of working attitude. You're starting, you're building, but you have to find measurements, and then you learn, and you have to get in the loop of build, measure, learn. So before I ending, so I'm actually on time. I'm so proud about myself. As I said, don't get frustrated, but this is why we're here, just as a kind